Hey, Chris,
Hey, how's it going?
can you hear the background music?
I cannot.
Okay. Well, guess we'll have to switch over to OBS to have background music. Figure out how to try it. All right. I need to post the link here a few places. The other nice part about OBS is you can schedule streams, I think, which would be good. So we have the link ahead of time. Instead of like having to wait beforehand and then getting it. All right, speaker should be joining here. Oh yeah, I have to promote you guys. Okay. All right. All right, there's the panelist. Timo's here. Hello, Timo.
Hi there.
Welcome. Sorry for the confusion there on the link. Probably just sent it to the wrong email address.
Okay, no problem.
Well, I think we'll give people usually a couple minutes to join here before we get started. But how's everybody doing?
I'm doing good.
I am good.
Me too. I'm getting work things as we're going here, so I'm trying to juggle everybody at once.
Oh, a little hard to hear you. I don't know. What did you say, Chris?
I said I'm good. I'm getting work ping from work at the same time here, so I'm just trying to juggle everybody at once.
Got it.
Same.
Yeah, we'll see how this during the day lunch meeting goes, but appreciate you guys setting aside the time to do something different this month. I think opening it up to different time slots will make it a little bit easier for us to find speakers. So yeah, and Timo, we appreciate you, or I'm sure you appreciate us, not making you stay up till 2 a.m. to give a meetup talk.
No worries. Normally I will be up late. Yeah, that's at the moment it's a little bit strange as I'm just based in the Europe time zone. Kind of settled down due to COVID, but I'm pretty sure, or I hope, let's say this, if time's getting better, I will be able to travel back to the US, and then we will see. Yeah, but yeah, sure. It's good for me, but just let me know if you have other time slots. Usually, I will be around late, so stay in contact with the other colleagues and folks in the US.
Yeah, we're always open to more speakers, and we're interested in talking.
Are you able to enable my video? I cannot click it. It says.
Oh yeah. Hang on.
Kind of.
I gotta make you a co-host, and then you'll have all the things. That's my bad.
No worries.
And I guess I need to start my video too.
There you go. Now it's working.
I did not have time to get the green screen up, but all good. And I was just saying that Chris and I found some background music, but Zoom definitely doesn't pick up the desktop audio, so looks like we for sure have to figuring out some like streaming options. Zoom's the easiest for us, keep it simple, but we considered maybe switching over to OBS or what is the other
OBS is great.
Streamlabs, yeah.
Yeah, OBS is great. I use OBS for my streams and broadcasting and stuff. I'm doing with the streaming module for Nginx. So there's an RTMP module where you can do very, very fancy things. So worth to check it out.
Yeah. And then like I haven't figured out, I gotta watch some tutorials or something, but can you, with the Streamlabs OBS, how hard is it? And Bobby, you probably know too, is to do like the background image, and then
right. Pretty easy. So as I said, I use OBS for my streams, and you can probably do whatever you want and I use Nginx to distribute my stream to Twitch and YouTube in the same time. So OBS is streaming to my Nginx streaming server, and then the Nginx server is streaming to YouTube and Twitch. Or whatever.
That's pretty fancy Nginx feature there, but given that you work there, I would hope that you know how to do those sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, I would use something else if it's easier, but it is just 5 lines of configuration for RTMP and another maybe 2 or 3 for the HTTP thing. So it's absolutely easy. So that's why I'm using it.
There's no plugins involved.
It's just a module, but you can install. And the good thing is, if you want to do this with Nginx Plus, you can even use it for Nginx Plus. It is a certified module for Plus as well. Yeah, I will drop the link, or let me share my screen. I can get started.
That's awesome.
Oh well, yeah. So, but well, before you start getting speaking and doing the presentation, we got to do like intro stuff. But
Oh, I
I mean,
see intro stuff
you can show us the streaming stuff if you want.
Yeah, let's do the intro first. Then I can show you quickly the RTMP stuff.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, I think we're ready to get started then. Let me make sure all the things are ready here. All right. So thank you all for joining us for Merge PHP April 2021. What year is it? I'm not quite sure yet, but I think we're coming up here on almost a year of doing this. The joint group here, Merge PHP, is Boston PHP, Atlanta PHP, and Austin PHP. So in case you don't know kind of how it works, is we're currently on Zoom and with the webinar feature. And so if you have a question, feel free to ask the question in either Zoom or YouTube chat. So if someone wants to post a question in Zoom and you're looking for the link to the YouTube, we can send that over to you via the Zoom chat. But feel free to ask questions in either Zoom or YouTube. We try to keep the Zoom a little more moderated, but YouTube, feel free to go crazy. We'll keep an eye on both, and then Timo will post questions here at the end of the talk, unless you have any breaks that you want to ask the audience. But we experimented with the Q&A thing in Zoom, and it was a little confusing, so we're not going to do that, I don't think. But yeah, so a little bit about Austin PHP. Let me swap over my screen here. Find the right one. I've got 2 open that with very similar titles. Yeah, okay. So Austin PHP is the longest running tech group here in Austin. We've been around since 2002. And we've got I updated the link. We have an actual YouTube channel that's branded, but we started the Austin Tech Videos YouTube channel back in 2011 or so, and there's a variety of stuff on there, and that's where the YouTube streams are happening. We've got the Slack channel here. You can join if you're interested in speaking. I did finally update the links to the short URL there. If you're interested in speaking, just fill out the survey or get in touch with any of the organizers, and we can get you signed up to speak in the future. We've got a Facebook page here that I try to post stuff to, but we're also, I think I'm going to try to start growing the company page here. I started this company page so that I had a little more official looking on LinkedIn. So just wanted to shout that out and make sure you guys were aware of that and consider following us there on LinkedIn. We also do a conference before the pandemic. We're working on the next year of Longhorn PHP. It was postponed last year, and we're doing it this year in October, October 14th through the 16th. We have tickets available, or you can sign up for email notifications to learn more. The CFP, I think, is still open till June, if I'm right. Yeah, June 30th. So if you're interested in speaking and coming out to Austin in October, submit a talk, and we pay all travel expenses, or we have in the past paid all travel expenses. So for speakers, so it's a good opportunity. And in case you don't know about the weather in Austin, there's the two best months of the year are March and October. So you're safe weather-wise to come visit us down in Central Texas. And then last thing for me, for my stuff, is PHP Ops. I started this publication about 7 months ago. We write about PHP or DevOps. If you're interested in blogging, come check that out. It is not tied to any of my company stuff, but just really trying to grow a new publication on Medium that benefits the communities here. So that's it for me. Chris or Bobby, if you want to go next, then I guess, yeah, one of us will do an intro for Timo.
Chris, you can go if you're ready. Otherwise, I'll go.
Okay, sure. 1 second. Sharing. Okay, just a couple quick words. I represent Atlanta PHP. We've been active since 2004. We just want to briefly mention our video archive sponsor, Variux.com. One of our members, David Edmondson, has a Magento integration consulting shop and just general development as well. So we really appreciate his involvement with our group. And also outside of Meetup, we maintain AtlantaPHP.org, where we have links about our job posting info into a Google group and discussions, as well as our video archive. We've got our videos captured back to 2012. So if you happen to miss one of our meetings or just want to go see earlier stuff, we got another source of videos for us. So that's all I have. So thank you all for coming. And
the giveaway?
Yeah. I do have a JetBrains, the company produces PHP Storm and a ton of other IDEs, does a user group license giveaway. It's 1 year to any 1 year subscription to any of their products, and you can add it to a current subscription if you already have one of theirs. So I guess the first person to email Chris at AtlantaPHP.org, like you see on the slide there, I can send you the info. All I need is your email address. So I'll mention by the end it's if it's already taken, just so we know. So thanks.
You're muted, Bobby.
Yeah, it's not letting. So Zoom does this weird thing when you put it in presenter mode. It like completely changes the UI. So I don't know how to like permanently turn off mute. So I guess I'll just have to hold the space bar while I present. Yeah.
You're muted again.
There we go. Found it. Start this over. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. So I'm Bobby. I'm from Boston PHP, and we usually, before the pandemic, we would meet in person at the Wayfair offices. And well, we're not tied to the Wayfair office, but the last 10 or so meetings have been there, the in-person ones. And then If anyone here is from the Boston area and you have a company with a space that's going to be interested in hosting us in the near future when we're back in physical form, give me a shout, and we'd love to bring the events to your place. We're located on Meetup, meetup.com/BostonPHP. It's pretty easy to find. We also announce our events. So if you're part of the Meetup group, obviously you're going to get notified of the events. We also announce them on the Boston PHP Twitter account, the Facebook user group, which is a private group. But if you join the group, if you add yourself to the group, join the group, where we usually just, if it doesn't look like an obvious spam account, we usually just accept everything. Same thing with LinkedIn. We have a private group. The reason they're private is because we used to get spam accounts that would just put malicious stuff in the channel, in the group. We've been around since 2002, and we've had this is an estimate because Meetup doesn't make it easy to tell anymore, but we've had about 280 events. Most of them, probably 220 or 30 or so, were in person. I keep looking to the left because that's where I used to keep my camera. And we have about 3,000, we're close to 4,000 members. What we're all about: education, as in beginner education, learning the fundamentals, that kind of thing. Idea sharing and open source. And we achieve those things through in-person meetups, self-study groups, and no longer new virtual meetups.
Nice.
Yeah, I finally remembered to remove it. And also, we do a thing called Developer Dorm Room, which I took out of the presentation so we wouldn't waste a lot of time. But it's like an in-person hack day kind of thing, hack night, I guess they call them now. Again, we're at meetup.com/BostonPHP. If you have any questions, you can contact us through the Meetup page. I'm Bobby. I'm listed in the organizers. I'm actually not listed as the lead organizer because the previous lead organizer is still there, and we haven't. Basically, he pays for it until he puts my name up there. So I'm just going to let him stay there for now. But events for basically, if you want to talk about virtual self-study groups, talk to Gene. He runs that, and he actually has a virtual self-study group event coming up shortly, which I thought was before this slide, but maybe
April
I skipped over it.
25th.
What's that?
April 25th.
Yeah, hang on one second. Oh, maybe it's after. And then anything else, you can contact me. So one of those virtual self-study groups I was just talking about, I'm going to try to give the quick pitch. Gene does it way better than I do, but so we spend a couple hours every month meeting up formerly in person, now virtually. And what do you do for the other thousands of hours of the month? You either go home and you learn some new stuff and then you forget it, or how do we build on the stuff that you learned at the meetup? And one of the answers we came up with, that Gene came up with, was virtual self-study. So the idea is a group of people sign up, and then you all choose a book to learn from, and then you do something like a chapter every week, and then you post the results in the forum on our meetup page, and you help each other through the book and learning the topic. And we do all kinds of topics from PHP, JavaScript. This one's an HTML5 brunch, but this particular season is going to be focusing on CSS. So if you're interested in learning the basics of CSS, definitely join this. And it starts Sunday, April 25th. And again, if you have further questions, feel free. You can ask me, but Gene will probably give you a better answer. And that brings us to tonight's presentation. And I guess I'll let Logan. Logan, do you want to introduce?
Yeah, sure.
Real quick, one thing. We have our JetBrains giveaway win already. Derek
Awesome.
Durock was the fastest emailer. So thank you all for interest in that. And we'll do it again next month.
Congratulations.
Good. It's the JetBrains stuff is like use it or lose it. So we definitely need people to email Chris once a month after he says go. Gotta wait till he says email me. But yeah. Thanks guys. I'm happy that we're still doing this here. I couldn't remember. Did we start in June, or was it like? It's a couple more months. I couldn't remember exactly though.
June sounds right.
So we've been doing Merge PHP for 10 months now. Tonight's talk, I'm really excited about what Timo is going to be talking about. The idea of getting rid of FPM is pretty revolutionary. So I think there's going to be a lot of knowledge drop that we'll all appreciate. And interested to know more about what Nginx has got going on. And so I ran across a talk that he did previously, and really happy that he was able to give the talk with us today. So Timo is a passionate web developer, PHP for 15 years, and he started pretty young and was working as a web developer and solutions architect in the automotive industry. And so he's been working at Nginx for a little over a year now, and then just gives really good presentations. So I think we're in for a treat. Thanks, Timo. Whenever you're ready to get started here, I think you had some things to show us on the streaming setup before we get into the talk.
Sure. So basically, first of all, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to people. So thanks for the invite, Logan. And yeah, I mean, I can quick share the link to the streaming module. And this is not our main core topic for today. Nginx, or an engineer from Nginx built this RTMP module 9 years ago, and it's still a thing. I'll just share the link, and I have this I'm using this module for my streaming stuff as well. So the install part is down here. Don't be too scared. You have to build it from source because it's a dynamic module. It's not static. And it is, so it looks, so this, for example, is something you can do. And there's one, I will give you one shot here. If you have Nginx already installed on the system, which is quite likely, and you want to add a dynamic module, most of the errors I see with other users and customers is that they see in the error log something like the module you have just built is binary incompatible with the current version of Nginx you're running. So that's the reason, because you have to use the exact same configure attributes to build the module that Nginx was originally built with. If you don't do this, module will not be binary compatible, but you can find them out very easy. So type Nginx, lowercase v is the version, and there's a little trick. Do this with an uppercase. We'll give you all the configure attributes, and then it's simple. Copy this, paste it here, add module, boom, that's it. Press enter, grab the module, shift it to your instance, enable it with load module, and that's it. So this little trick will save you a lot of headache and time figuring out why this thing is binary incompatible. So remember sudo nginx capital V, grab all the configure attributes, and do this. And put this. Right, so I haven't really, I mean, I have something prepared, but it's not like a webinar or something. It's I think it's kind of a brown bag session for you. It's something like a meetup webinar thing for me. It's almost 6:30. So yeah, so let's get started here. Yeah, as Logan said, my name is Timo Stark, currently based in Germany. I'm PHP fanboy since I'm 12 years old. Using PHP since yeah, longer than half of my life, and working with Nginx since February last year. And at the moment, working as a product management engineer for Nginx Plus and Unit. And Nginx Unit is the thing we will cover today. I will jump here through the slides and go not in presentation mode because I think it's that should work. If you want to find out more, you can follow me on Twitter, or I have just started streaming a little while ago about all things Nginx, Nginx Unit. There's a good video about Nginx Unit 1.23 release. We will cover a couple of things from that video in the today's session. So make sure you check that out. You can subscribe. That would be cool. And yeah, stay tuned. I will stream every week about all things Nginx. And if you have any question like, hey, how do you build a dynamic module? Because it drives me nuts because I see this binary incompatible error thing, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Send me a message on Twitter or in one of my YouTube videos, and I'm pretty happy to make a video, another live stream to answer all your questions about Nginx. So what we will do today is how we can get rid of the PHP FPM, or how I get rid of the PHP FPM entirely. Yeah, let's get started with a little bit of a timeline. So Nginx open source as a web server, proxy server, is around since a little bit over 10 years. And Nginx Unit started in 2018. And I remember that day I grabbed the first, I made this first install of Nginx Unit and built it from source. That was back in 2018. And I guess I was the first customer at this time from Nginx Unit using it in production. So that was back in 2018. A lot happened between 2018 and now. Interesting thing, fun fact, 2018 I started Nginx, or my journey with Nginx Unit as a user. And yeah, now almost 3 years later, I'm the product management engineer for this product, which is an awesome fun fact. And yeah, we're approached 1.23 in March this year, though that's our current release. And as I know that not all of you may be familiar with Nginx Unit, what it is, so let's do a little bit of an introduction to Nginx Unit. So Nginx Unit is more than just an application server. It is really something that runs your application code, and with all the things, let's say this, you need, and I will come to this thing. So what is this things in a minute. So it runs your application code. So how does it do this? How it runs your application code, or what is the thing? So let's jump to this slide here first. As we're talking about PHP today, I need a little bit of your input here, how deep we should dive into the whole world of how is my PHP code processed. I will keep it higher level. If you want to do it a little bit more deep dive, just let me know, because I think we can lose a lot of time in this technical area. But
I think we can go pretty deep.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, cool, Logan. All right. So we're talking about the left bit here of this diagram. So we remember this server application programming interface that Unit implements to talk to PHP. We keep that in mind to, yeah, and I will show you this in a demo, what Unit changed and why Unit can replace the PHP FPM. So what benefits do we have with Unit? Theory is here, great, but we will see all this in the demo in a second. So Unit is configurable via a RESTful web API. So it's not like sending configuration files, .conf files like for Nginx open source or plus, or use something like the PHP ini file or the pool config file for PHP FPM worker pools. It's all configurable with JSON API, which is great and pain at the same time. But yeah, first of all, it's great to be very dynamically configurable, and at the point where you know how to work with this JSON API, it's a cool feature. You can run multiple applications on a single Nginx Unit instance, and this is something I can definitely tell you from a user perspective as well as from a PM perspective, that the Nginx Unit is a product that is created by the origin inventors of Nginx open source. So it has the same high performance and production grade HTTP interface than our Nginx open source and Nginx Plus products. And as I said, I used Nginx Unit as the first customer back in 2018 for production, and I had not a single production problem with Nginx Unit since that day. So it was pretty stable from the first day. So what does it mean? We can run multiple applications on a single application or on a single unit. Currently, we support a couple of languages. So the today's most important one for this today's talk is PHP. Besides from that, we support Python, Ruby, Perl, Java, Go, and Node.js. So you can run all those languages or applications built in with that languages on a single unit instance. So you do not have to use containers for that. You can just install Unit, and we have for the languages, we have language modules, and that's how we can implement that. So this is the slide we already saw. One of these language modules I'm talking about is the implementation of the SAPI for PHP. And this is something we'll have a look on. And this is something I will definitely show you in our demo. So yeah, let's dive into the system. All right, so this is a Ubuntu VM installed with Nginx open source, Nginx Unit, as well as the PHP FPM. So let's start from the point what we already know. I think most of you have used the Nginx server with PHP FPM in the past, I guess, I hope. So I do not need to explain how this setup works in much detail. I think that should be pretty clear. So this should be a common configuration. So this should be well known for a PHP developer. We have this little location block, ~\php, $, and fast CGI pass. So this is the point where I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive, because what does it mean to have this fast CGI pass and Unix, yada yada yada, run PHP pool? So fast CGI is, first of all, is a protocol. This is one of the things I want to point out. It is an application protocol, and the PHP FPM we are talking about today is an implementation that uses that implements the SAPI of PHP and make use of the fast CGI protocol to accept incoming requests from our Nginx web server, proxy server in that case, or Apache, or a lot of other tools that implement this pass. So this is really just if you want a proxy connection. So we are sending data over the network to a socket that will be placed in run PHP pool www74.sock. So whatever name, call it banana if you want. But this is a common FPM setup. So fast CGI proxy, fast fastCGI as a protocol pointing to the FPM socket or to the fastCGI socket that will be, and all the processes will be handled by FPM. So this should be a common setup. So let's check out what we have right now. PHP should be fine. So is that big enough? Or should I make this a little bit more enlarged?
I can see it fine. I don't.
Cool. Yeah. So as I said, this is a common setup. We have the FPM installed. We have the FPM config, and we have this PHP pool, WW pool. So where does it come from? Not a secret. It sits inside of etc PHP, then the version 7.4, and in here we have FPM. So inside of the FPM, there are a couple of configuration files, PHP fpm.conf, and in here we have normally something like an include statement. Yep, and this will include all our pool configurations. So let's dig into the pool thing. And this is nothing new for you. We have our www.conf example. So this is like the original one that comes with the installation. A lot of stuff in here, which is great. But let's get rid of, let's say, all the comments here to make it a little bit more smaller. And that will then result in a configuration that is something like, oops, Vimy will not work, like this. So remove all the comments, and this should be something you already know. A pool configuration for your PHP FPM with a run user, a group. So that means on what the socket can, or what user is the socket or the process running on. Then we have the listen directive, which is in that case the Unix socket. This another way of the fastCGI would be port 9000. But it doesn't matter anything. So this will not change anything. It's just a way of how to communicate with our FPM or with the fastCGI server. So we have a socket here. The listen group is Nginx. Dynamic, max children 5, start service, min spare, max spare. So there's a couple of options we can put here. In general speaking, those settings are so that you can use them to fine tune your configuration, to performance tune your FPM. I did a lot of checks and a lot of reconfigurations here in my previous job when I worked for an automotive company, because it was, I don't know, but sometimes it looks like administrators just put random numbers in here. And at the point, I remember at the point where I told an admin, look, you have to calculate them. You cannot just say 50, 20, 10. This will not work. I mean, you can calculate those numbers. And let me know if we have time after the main session. I can share a couple of insights of how to calculate those numbers, because this is the same calculation for Nginx Unit as well. All right. So this is our FPM setup. So we have FPM up and running. So we can check, I think we can use bin system control, nothing fancy here, and check the status of our PHP 7.4 FPM service. It is up and running, it's active, and we're good to go. So this is the current state of the art. That's what I can say. And let's go back into our Nginx. And just to make sure I'm not telling you something wrong, we listen on port 8080. So listen localhost port 8080 is our Nginx open source implementation using fastCGI and the FPM. So curl localhost, can't type today, localhost port 8080. 80 will print. So it says unit 1.3 demo, fine, localhost port 8080, but as you can see, server is 19.9 and the X powered by header is 7.4.3. So this is the current state. And I'm pretty sure you're aware of how complicated it is to create now a separate socket. So let's say you have another application and you do not want that this application shares the same FPM socket than another application for a couple of reasons. So what you can do is you can copy the www.conf in your pool, change the run user to something else, great, reload the FPM, go inside of your Nginx configuration, copy the default conf or add another server block, copy the PHP stuff, add the nozzle listener, add the fast CGI params, change the socket. I mean, I did that for 10 years, 12 years. And I mean, it was the state of the art. It was the only way I was able to do this. So I was pretty happy and it worked well. But then in 2018, there was Nginx Unit, and PHP was the first of the first module, the first language they supported. And so what changed? So what is the difference now between FPM and Nginx Unit? So first of all, let me go and check the website with you. So it is unit.nginx.org. And this is installation. There you go. And I mean, you can grab it for a couple of operating systems like Red Hat, Ubuntu, for Mac as well, using Homebrew. Or if you want to get started, and you can use the Docker image as well. So you will see this is 1.23 with PHP 8. So feel free to grab it. It's around on Docker Hub. So you can grab the Docker image and can play around with the image as well. But what we want to do is today, we want to check out so what we can do with a unit installation on an instance instead of a container. All right. So if you want to install the Nginx Unit app server, as I said, we have a couple of packages around pre-built for you. So for example, for Nginx, for Ubuntu 2010 or 2004, 3 steps: signing key, add repository, apt install unit. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Install unit, CentOS, Amazon. Where is? It doesn't matter. It's the same for Debian. So apt install unit is the core of the unit application server, if you want, or of the unit product. And on top of this, we have modules, language modules for each language. So if you want to install that for PHP, we can use unit PHP. So this is the only thing we have to do. I previously did that. I mean, we can install apt install unit and unit PHP, unit PHP. Sudo would help. I think there's something crazy going on with my keyboard. All right, so it tells me we already have unit is installed with the newest version, and unit PHP is installed with the newest version. Great. But even if not, I mean, feel free to check it out. It will bring the unit core as well as the PHP module that implementing the PHP SAPI, and it has this module brings the PHP dependencies to your system. So if PHP is not already installed, it will install the PHP common and everything we need to talk to the PHP binaries. Because this is something that did not change. And this is something that was really important for me at the beginning. You can think about it like the FPM. You cannot use the FPM without PHP itself. You have to install PHP on the system and use FPM as the way to communicate with the PHP SAPI. And this is the same for Unit. Unit implements the PHP server application programming interface with its own module, but we still need the PHP binaries on the system. Without them, it will not work. We need those hooks that we can execute the PHP code. So, but this will come with as a prerequisite with the Unit PHP package. All right, so then we have Unit. Great. And this is the one benefit here, or the biggest move. That's basically all we have to install. All the rest that comes next is configuration. So no installation of Nginx open source is needed, no installation of a PHP FPM or reconfiguring of an FPM and all that stuff is needed anymore. Unit and Unit PHP will be enough to host your PHP applications on this server. And yeah, this is what we have. So let's see and check out what we have here. All right, so Unit is installed. And as we said, Unit will be configured over a RESTful API. So RESTful API means that we can use my Unit CLI. Because of the time, I will not deep dive into the configuration API itself. So check out my YouTube channel. There are, I think I will make a video in the next days about the CLI I built, or check out the GitHub repository, and I'll make sure I paste it here in this Q&A or in the chat, so that you can see what the Unit CLI is. Basically, the Unit CLI is a wrapper around the JSON API we can use with Nginx Unit to make it easier for me to do stuff like grabbing the current loaded configuration. Unit CLI A will apply, C will grab the current configuration. So that's basically what it does. And this is the configuration we have. And as you can see, the main benefit of Nginx Unit is that we have full control with the API from layer 4, so from the network, from here, layer 4, till deep inside our application code in the user space. So what does it mean? That means we can configure a listener, port 80, port 443. You can think about something like a listener in Nginx open source. So like where or how, on what port I want to expose my application. Let's say port 8080, or let's say port 80, port 443, whatever. So then we have routes. A route object is, interestingly, a piece of logic in between a listener and your application. And based on a route, we can make decisions on what URI, on what host name, what HTTP method we want to send traffic to what application. So yeah, upstreams is proxy. So we can proxy as well. And one of the coolest features, and make sure you check out the video for 1.23 after that one, is the TLS, or the enhanced TLS support. Let's say this. We have the support for encrypted traffic around for a while, but with the newest release, we have an SNI support. So that means the Nginx Unit will get the host name before the initial TLS handshake, and can automatically select the certificate from a given list of certificates. So if you see, we have 3 certificates configured, and Nginx Unit will select one of those 3 based on the given host name. So this as a little bit of an intro, we have full control over this layer 4 network stack. So we can say, look, our implementation or our app listens on port 443. We want to pass this request. So let's send all incoming traffic to the routes object. And please encrypt my traffic by using one out of those 3 certificates. And the certificates, they sit here inside of Nginx Unit as well, configurable, renewable, and changeable with the RESTful API. So I have written a little bit of a shell script that do automatically creation of certificates using certbot and Let's Encrypt. So that means with this new release 123, we can automatically create a certificate for a given server name. and can automatically deploy their certificate inside of Nginx Unit. And then Nginx Unit will automatically detect on the given host name what's the certificate, and will use it for the encryption of the traffic. And this is an absolutely awesome feature. But let's come back to PHP here. So as I said, let's look into this here. The application object takes an application, which is the unit demo. The type is PHP. Then we can specify a run user and a group. So this is equivalent to the user and the group of your PHP FPM usering group. Then you remember the max server, spare, limit, idle timeout thing. It's the same here. So we can specify what are the maximum amount of workers, what is the spare, so the maximum of idle workers at the beginning of our of startup, so it's 5, and the idle timeout is 20 seconds. So we can do the same here. So then we can specify targets, cool thing. And now let's have a look on this configuration. That's great, so it works. And let's do curl v and do, let's say localhost port 80. Great. So now let's try something else. So for example, the unit 1 Nginx lab thing, and let's see https:// oops, I get rid of this one, https unit-1.nginxlab.com, and it's encrypted and certificate is valid. And when I do the same for Nginx 2 or unit 2, same thing. And Nginx Unit will automatically detect the certificate to use for encrypt the connection. So, and as I said, the unit CLI is something I have created, and it's publicly available on GitHub. And it's like a wrapper around the unit CLI or the unit API that I do not have to send all the curl requests manually. And I have introduced something that's called a unit spec file. And a unit spec file is a JSON file you can place into your CI/CD templates, but you definitely should save it alongside your application code, because this describes the whole configuration from the network stack, from an encryption in traffic, so for TLS setup, routes, and the application itself. So what options, variable order, exposed PHPs, true and false, how many processes, what is our root of the application, and all that thing, which is really related to your application code, has now so now you have the possibility to have this alongside with your application code. So you can configure all of this stuff here, keep it in your repository, and this will describe how your application is deployed on Nginx Unit. So we see I changed something like processes or admin, the admin section here, or the options is like how you can configure the PHP ini system. And we have two options like admin and user. And the admin space here is for the PHP ini system level, and user is PHP ini user. So everything you set here in admin cannot be overwritten from inside of your PHP. Everything you set with user can be changed with your PHP code. So this is pretty neat. And it's all here in Unit. So no more PHP FPM stuff where you set up users and groups and max min spare timeouts, stuff like that. No more PHP ini or stuff where you create another PHP file to change the ini settings. You can put all that in here and then simply do something like uCLI. So let me do something to prove I'm not doing anything fancy here. Sudo uCLI -a, and then we have the use spec, and then I think I have a debug flag here. Yes, I have. So what I did is I used my CLI tool to grab the uspec and then to configure the application first. So as you can see now, we have now the options available. We have the max spare and idle thing. We have, this is all in place, and we reconfigured our route all here. We create our listener, port 443, and that's basically all we do. So we just apply a JSON file. And it doesn't matter from where you do this. You can do this in your CI/CD pipeline. You can do this locally on your Mac. You can run this on your server. It doesn't really matter. That's all you have to do. So no FPM stuff is needed here. So let's have a look. Does it change anything? No. Great. So now let's do something like this and have a look on our processes. All right, so make this a thing, and then we change that, and then you will see how that works. So this is unit demo application 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are our current workers for our application as defined in the unit spec file. So let's change that. Let's change the let's change actually the spare to 1. So we changed that. We changed that, and now let me do this again, but add a watch 1. Then we do this again. So as you see, it's still 5, and now we apply our configuration again. See, we'll automatically reconfigure your processes. And the cool thing is, it is a graceful reconfiguration. So even if you specify something like this, or even if you change the listener application, it will not break your production traffic. So Unit will take care of to make it gracefully. All right. So this is, you can see somebody is looking at our demo. That's why Nginx Unit spins up dynamically more processes here. So if you do a little test with Apache Benchmark or something, then you will see that we will have a little bit more traffic here. So I have this. So we can send 10,000 concurrent or 10,000 requests, 100 at a time to this. Just give it a shot. And now you see Nginx will now dynamically scale the FPM or the PHP workers up to handle the traffic. And it's the same behavior that FPM would work at this point. And after the requests ended, so now we will see this idle timeout that many of our workers haven't do anything to do right now because there's no more traffic. And then you will see in a couple of seconds, they will start going back to 1. See? And this is pretty neat because you can change this just an API call away. No FPM stuff, no sudo service FPM reload and things. So make sure you want to do this with 5. Great thing. Reconfigure, apply your configuration. It will automatically reconfigure. And you can do the same thing, for example, with environment variables as well. So inside of your application object, you can have something that is called environment. And in environment, that takes another object. And in here, we can specify something like, let's call it Austin PHP as the environment variable, and we call it is cool is the value. Cool. So now let's change our, this is the demo. Let's change the index PHP really quick and dump, oops, and dump our, yeah, just dump our environment. That should do the trick for now. So this should be empty now. So no thing in here. Great. So now let's reload our unit config. Reconfiguration done. Go in here and see Austin PHP is cool. So that means we can even change the environment settings dynamically. And yeah, as I said, all an API call away. And so as I said, I use Nginx Unit for PHP since 2018 right now, and replaced all of my FPMs with Nginx Unit. And this is a simple script, I know, but I use it for Cake PHP heavily. I use it for WordPress. I use it for Joomla. What else? Laravel, a couple of things. And I have a very, very large amount of sites right now under heavy load running on PHP and Nginx Unit. And as I said, I do not have a single problem using it since almost 2.5 years. So that's what I can tell you as a user and now as a product management engineer for this awesome product. And yeah, we'll be around for questions right now.
It's awesome. It's a pretty exciting stuff to think about this way that we've always been doing FPM for I don't know, 10 years or so, and or more, and this is really interesting, and I think also like the ability to run different languages is really powerful too, right? If you're working on microservices kind of team, where somebody's building an API in Go, or you have some front end people that have built some Node.js stuff, the ability to configure everything without containers, using Nginx Unit is pretty powerful. So can you, I know there are a fair amount of people that are running in like ECS and kind of like have a containerized infrastructure plan. Can you talk about a little bit like the what that looks like in terms of like changing the configuration, like how I guess you would need to rebuild some of the containers and then kind of redeploy, so it's almost less flexible, it seems like. Yeah, just if you just talk a little bit about like the container side of things.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, a unit will definitely fit in a container as well. And so this is where the Docker for good and for bad thing is coming. Reconfiguring unit inside a container makes sense, I would say, or I did that for debugging purpose in a production system. If you want to change something real quick and right now without redeploying the container for whatever reason, you can do this. I have built a controller for unit. There is a video on YouTube as well. I should link it to my channel of a talk on 2019, I guess. So what I did, I created a kind of a control plane for my unit configuration endpoints. So what you can do when you run unit in a container, to reconfigure, it doesn't really matter where unit runs. If it's a container, bare metal, your laptop, on a VM, the only thing you have to make sure is that you have access to the control socket or port. So you can use both. not at the same time, but you can make a decision even if you want to listen for connections on a given socket or on a port. If you run it on unit on a container, for example, and you have a couple of instances that have unit installed on, or a couple of containers having unit installed on, then you could expose something like a common configuration port and can expose them to the host machine. And then you can create something like a proxy with Nginx open source and to add some authentication. This is important because the configuration API of a unit does not provide an authentication at this time. So if you expose it, make sure you're create an authentication layer in front of it. So if you expose the unit config API on port 9000, which is doable, and you want to configure it over the network, I would suggest a couple of things here. So first, be aware of what it is. If you lose control over the control API endpoint of your unit server, anybody can control your processes, can see, can configure you, or can see the environment variables and all that stuff. So they can really, so if you use the environment for secrets, for example, they can be a very juicy information in it. So how do I secure my unit API when I did that for the automotive company? I used Nginx Unit and exposed the config on a port 9100, I guess. And I used Nginx open source as a reverse proxy and added mutual TLS on the Nginx level. So that means with any request to the unit config endpoints, I have to send a client certificate that match a given root CA to be able to connect to Nginx open source and then to be proxy to my unit server. So that means you cannot configure your unit instances without having a client certificate in place. So this is, I would say, the highest level of security, because you have to send a certificate. Otherwise, you cannot even connect to the proxy.
Yeah.
Another way could be using something like basic authentication with Nginx open source, or using some other techniques like auth request. But this could work. So if Nginx runs or unit runs in a container and you want to dynamically configure it, or want to see what's the current configuration, for example.
So, I guess like a more basic question is like, if would you recommend putting a unit like in the same container as the PHP application, or having a separate like layer that is just running unit that is orchestrating with the PHP containers?
Yeah, good question. Because I think about a couple of or a question like this for a decent amount of time, and how to separate for example, the application code from the server. And I really ended up in a decision where I have a base image with Nginx Unit and the PHP version I want and all the things I need, and use this in my production code. And then in my build process, I put the application code that is static, and this is the most common problem with Docker containers and some sort of orchestration. If you have parts of your application that writes files to disk, they can change during runtime or over time. You have to make sure that you store them anywhere outside the container. Otherwise, if you redeploy the thing, for example, with Kubernetes, you will lose those piece of information. So that's why Kubernetes has this persistent volume things around. But anyway, I would suggest to have unit in a container and put the application code that runs on this unit, if you want to have it in a container, in the same container. So you have your application X or Y, Z is this deployable container, and unit takes care of the rest.
I mean, maybe it just depends on the application too, right? Like
of any,
yeah. Cool. Really interesting talk. We did have a question. If you want to go over the process for calculating workers and the children's stuff, I think there's probably a couple couple questions in there that we can go over. I know a lot of it has to do with memory limits on the server, but I'm sure you'll have some more insight for us.
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so basically, when it comes to the memory calculation, we have we had with FPM 3 different options. It's static. You can configure it static. So that means you define a specific amount of workers and they are static. So like 5, 10, 50, 20, 100. They do not scale. Then you have on demand, which is, I guess, a combination of both, but I'm not entirely sure anymore. But we have, of course, dynamic. And dynamic is the same behavior we see with unit, where we have a specific amount of workers on startup. This is the spare. So that means even if they are idling, do nothing at this time, we still want to have them, right? So in our case, it's 5. And then we have this max server where we say it's 10, 20, 50, 100. And I started learning about how that works when I tuned it was around 220 VMs, I guess, in this other company, where they put random numbers in max, idle, spare, whatever, because I don't know, they thought this is a good idea. And then I did some calculations. I look, does your VM has 900 gigabyte of memory? The answer was hell no. So yeah, why you have 150 max here? That's the reason why you're killing the server when it's under load, because the number of processes you specified are definitely too much for this little machine here. So then that's where I started digging into this whole memory thing. And it boils down to a simple form or a simple calculation. So it's like max memory of the instance. So it's, let's say it's 8. And then it depends on what's running on the instance as well, or alongside with a PHP app. And even if you do this with a couple of workers and more applications, you have to fine tune this a little bit. But let's say we have one application running on this VM, or inside of one unit on this VM, nothing else, no database, nothing else. So let's say we have max RAM of 8 gigabyte, and so I always use something like a gigabyte or 2 for system, right?
Buffer, yeah.
So this is like the system needs a couple of RAM to operate. A gigabyte is a lot, to be very honest. So this will definitely be totally fair enough. So then you have this gives you a number, and so then you can divide this by the memory consumed or the process size called in the FPM. So how big, in the memory language, how big is my single process? And yeah, to get this, I have a little Python script. I'm pretty sure I can share this on GitHub as well. And yeah, that came up pretty handy when do this. So it is not doing this for PHP FPM because I do this a lot. So it's doing this for everything, but it's doing this for FPM as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's saying at the moment we have something like private and shared memory that brings us a total memory of 12. So, which is fine. So what we can do then is, So then we can simply, so this was the last bit of information that was missing. So we have 12. So that means, let's say we have an instance here with 2 gigabyte of RAM. And we want to have 512 megabyte or 256 megabyte left for the instance for operational, because it's a small instance. Let's say 512 to be very sure. And then we have to divide it by the amount of memory used by per PHP FPM process. So this is 12. So this is 128. So this is your max. This is the absolute maximum count of workers for this instance, 128. So with this simple calculation, you can calculate this max number. And if you have something like 200 and like 16 megabyte of RAM and you have 14 available, and your process size is something like 124. It depends on what's going on in the FPM at the moment. And there's a number of 90 and you specify 360, then this is a way too much. So yeah, this is a simple example how to calculate this max number, and all the rest like min spare is something that's related to number of CPU cores or number of or RAM initialized or available on the instance. Interesting topic. I spent a couple of, I guess it was weeks, to be very honest. It was more than a week on digging into the FPM source code, checking memory dumps, and how is that stuff working? Because all the documentation around was not really understandable for me. It was something like somebody told this, another one told that. That's where I started using this Python script to calculate the current process size and memory's consumption. And did great since then. Never had a problem with those numbers anymore since then. Like it doesn't matter if it's with FPM or unit. Doing a calculation is always good before setting those numbers.
Yeah, I think the hardest, or one of the hardest things for me was, figuring out or kind of like rough estimating, like what is the size of that the FPM is using, actual size, and like trying to get that accurate, and get it close enough that the system had enough memory left over, if when the traffic did scale up, that it's going to be stable no matter what. And it looks like we do have another question, but before we get into that, I just if you had any insight, like if you have an application server that is like running non PHP FPM processes, so like Laravel workers or like background kind of jobs. I think there's a lot of us that have like a mixed use servers where it's kind of doing several different things. Do you how do you take that into account? Is like if it's doing multiple things, like would you recommend separating it out and kind of like fine tuning it per role, or trying to make it work and just being a little bit more cautious on the number of workers?
Long running task, for example, always interesting to deal with. I could spend another 2 hours straight talking about long running tasks and how they affect your workers. And let me give you an real life example I had, and then maybe that guides us to an answer. And the answer is always it depends. With a lot of things, the answer is it depends. So the application we had problems with was a media sharing application. It was something like YouTube for internal use, or Microsoft Stream, something like that. It was not the PHP tube thing that is around for a while. It was something created by an agency, I guess. Yes, it was some third-party product built with PHP, and to handling media stuff, it doesn't really matter. The main problem of this thing was that it had FFmpeg under the hood, and you could upload some MP4 files, or I guess WAV files or whatever, and it did some transpiling with those files, and you can imagine this will take a long time. And that was not handled by something. I mean, the actual work was handled by FFmpeg, but it was kicked off by PHP. So what they did is they configured the FPM in a wrong way, and with those long running tasks, they thought there is a function in PHP that will close the request. And we implemented that with Unit as well. So the problem with that is so let's say you send a request that is long running. It's a long running task to the FPM, and you use this FPM close request feature to close the request. So that means the process is still running, but the request is closed, which sounds like a good idea, but it will open up the queue for another request, which is fine, but your task or the process you just kicked off is not done yet. So it's still running. It's occupying memory, and doing FFmpeg is occupying a lot of CPU and memory. And by closing the connection, you can do something else from the side where you call the FPM, sure. But that means also that another connection will be accepted, because it's the number of connections is reduced by 1 because you closed it, but the memory and all the resources are still occupied. So that led into a situation where they had a lot of workers occupied with tasks doing this FFmpeg transcompiling stuff, and where requests from the front end was answered with a 502-byte gateway, because the proxy server was not able to send traffic to the CGI to the FPM, because all the workers were busy with doing the transpiling. So that's as a problem. So what happened is I changed that and created another worker pool, limited the number of max servers, the number of memory consumption, and that to fit into this VM. And then the FFmpeg called the PHP scripts, but the PHP scripts, they were issued on the second FPM pool that were not for the front end. So that means all the front end requests to browse this media library, this internal YouTube, if you want, run on a separate pool group, so on a separate set of workers, and they cannot be occupied by those FFmpeg tasks. And with this configuration, so they had problems for weeks, and they were not even able to find out what the issue was. And then digging into the problem, checking what's going on, doing memory dumps, see what's the problem here. And the solution was a fix within 10 minutes. Copy the FPM pool conf, create a new pool, create a new proxy route, assign the calls to the new FPM pool, and that's basically solved the problem. Never heard again something bad about it. So maybe that's the answer. It depends. And if you have really long-running tasks that could occupy the resources that are important to serve the actual service, I would try to separate them as possible. But I haven't done that a lot with Unit. But I'm pretty sure if you have some great example, and Bobby called this little hacking night. I'm always up for hackathons and hacking nights. I love it. So why not? Let's give it a shot and try to implement some long-running tasks on Unit. I mean, why not?
Yeah, that's interesting. And the idea of using a separate pool to answer those kind of longer running things is pretty interesting. I think will be helpful for people. That's a helpful concept. Okay, so Brett had a question here, and Brett, thanks for being patient. Could you talk a little bit about like max children and how auto scaling for optimizing that for memory usage? If max children is too low, can you talk a little bit about like what happens if there's no processes to answer a request? And then I guess a follow-up question would be does it make sense to make max children higher than expected? And then can you just touch again a little bit on what happens if it runs out, there's too many children and it runs out of memory? Yeah.
Sure. All right. So basically, if you specify something like just one worker, you can even do this with Nginx Unit as well. So you do not have to use the dynamic stuff. You can use static as well. So let me see. So we have unit 1, 2, 3 demo, and then we have the uspec JSON. So this is for the dynamic configuration. So we have max of 10, spare of 5, idle time is 20. So yeah, long answer short here is if we do not make this correct, and if we tell our FPM, so maximum amount of workers is 1, do not use any more, then FPM will not, or unit will not spin out more workers. So that's basically the end of the story then. So that said means if the traffic is too high for a single worker, you will end up in some problems reaching out to your service. It's the same thing for Nginx as well. Problem.
I believe it's just like the waiting to load kind of case. Yeah.
So it's like, because the workers are used to handle concurrent requests that will come into our instance, and based on the system architecture of a 64-bit system, not to dive too deep into it, but there is a physical resource limit of what a single worker can do. I mean, that's the case why we have multi-workers on Nginx, on FPM. If one worker can handle as much traffic as even possible on the system, it wouldn't make sense to spin them up and down, right? So if this is configured wrong, this will definitely be affect your application negatively. If you create this too high, so let's say you have a max of 100 or 1,000, and you have not enough system resources, then it can be a problem that there is an OEM killer in most of the systems. So that means before the system will crash, it has some sort of emergency brake to kill processes. And by kill, I mean it kills it. It does kill -9 process ID, and it went dark. So it's like the last bit of security inside of your system before it's running out of resources. It has this OEM killer that will just kill a process if the system recognizes, look, this one is eating up all my resources, and if we do not stop it, I will definitely go down entirely. So this is a great thing, because you see this in the syslog that something was killed by the OEM killer. I saw that a lot of times in the Java world, to be honest, with the JVM. I saw that with PHP as well, but this is the fact where you have a very high load and have the max service too high. I don't think we can make this work here to test. I can prepare some demo, and then we can make maybe another session or a YouTube live stream to show you this.
Yeah, like a quick little kind of demo on that.
But
it sounds like it'll be like maybe a 500 or a 404, depending on like how the application is set to handle, the request being terminated.
Yes. So, and set the limit of workers here. If you tell Nginx Unit or the FPM, for example, to have a single worker, which is possible, I mean, I can delete this whole thing here. So let's do this. Oops. Let's do this and apply that again. So then you will see we have a single. So now we have a couple of great UCLI a. This is unit 1, 2, 3 demo UCLI uspec. All right. So that was interesting because that as you recognized it, it graceful. They were not like reconfiguring and then we lost all the workers. You saw it. They were unit waits until the worker was idling and then it killed the worker. So it was not like something, oh, I have a worker on the load, kill it, doesn't matter because somebody told me I just have one right now. It waits until the worker's idle and then it takes it, or it snacks it, whatever. Right, so now we have one. And when we do the load test again, we'll see it will not scale up.
It'll drop the requests.
Yeah, if there are too many, yes, but it's a simple echo thing, so I don't think we will see this in here. So
Brett asked a follow-up question, by the way.
So see, yeah, this is then we should see that the unit demo here. This is the PHP process. Yeah, it's not scaling up or down in that case. It's getting resources, but yeah, as I said, it's a little bit of a problem here because I'm running the A/B tests from the same instance then unit is running on, so the A/B test will consume resources, and so yeah, but we can create a demo with a couple of instances, so one for the load, one for the application server.
Yeah, I'll be interested in helping out on that project. So I just want to recap the original question here from Brett, and then get into a second question. So if the number of requests is too low, you'll get a waiting or a timeout, and then if the number of FPM workers is too high, it will 404 or 500, potentially even crashing the box if it runs out of memory. So in terms of if max children is too high, but you have your load balancer set up to auto scale based on load, does it, how big of a risk is it to just err on the side of too high, as long as the load balancer is being able to switch requests between different instances?
Yeah, so it's a good question. How too high max workers in a load balanced environment?
Because if it's waiting for a request and it's taking too long on one box, it seems like the load balancer would be just okay, never mind, I'll send it to send it somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the question here is really what is the do I or should I create a max workers higher or lower? So basically my idea would be to calculate the process size of a single worker process and then start with something like max memory and use, let's say on an 8 GB instance, use 2 for the instance, which is definitely enough. Well, if you want to be very clear, make 3 and then you have 5 left and then divide it through the memory size or the pools, the worker size, and then use that as max. So as I said, I never had a problem with this calculation because then you can make sure that all the workers you specify will fit into the memory. And yeah, given that, you can check for idle workers with some monitoring tool. So given you specify a spare of 25 and a max of 125, that means you can scale 100 workers between 25 as a minimum and 125 as a maximum. And so given that is that you have at least 25 workers. Doesn't really matter if they are idling or not. You have 25 workers available serving your traffic. And if there's more traffic, then you will scale up your workers. And you can check for a number of current workers. Something like Prometheus can do this. So you can check what's the current amount of workers running on my system. And then you can get insights and figures. How many idle workers do I have? How many idle workers do I have during daytime, during nighttime, whatever?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Just use monitoring and logging tools, and just like, see what the average number of workers across your entire application stack, and then just use that as the number, or maybe add a little bit of a buffer to it. But it never hurts to optimize your stack, and so. I mean, the worst thing to happen is like if stuff starts crashing and is unable, like the instance is no longer able to respond. So finding like a happy little medium there, not too low but not too high, I think is crucial for a stable, happy Nginx environment. No matter you're running PHP FBM or Unit. I'm excited about trying out Unit. I think this is really excellent presentation. Bobby, I haven't been watching the YouTube chat, but did we have any questions from YouTube?
No questions in YouTube.
Okay. All right. Well, Timo, thank you so much for the presentation today. It was really interesting. I think a lot of people had some good takeaways from your presentation. Definitely interested in talking with you some more about some Nginx ideas and coding sessions. So happy that we're connected. Check out Timo on LinkedIn or Twitter, and I think you have a Twitch stream where you or was it YouTube?
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, it's both. I have Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, make sure you subscribe.
He uses Nginx to stream to both.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure you can subscribe my YouTube channel. I just get started into this streaming world. I think my videos they will be better from time to time. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, and that will be cool. And I will be open for a question. And if you have any question, drop it in the comment. Send me it on Twitter. Because we really care what the community thinks of, and it doesn't matter if you're a customer paying for Nginx Plus or a community member using Nginx open source. So it doesn't matter, customer, a member, a user of Nginx is a user. So we take care of the questions. So let me know if you have any questions, regardless the topic, load balancing, Unit, PHP, Python, Perl, Java, whatever. Happy to answer. And if I do not know the answer, I'm pretty sure I have folks around knowing the answer. So
that's awesome.
We will find them.
It's good to hear things like that, because not every organization has been the best stewards of open source. So it seems like F5 is doing a good job over there with Nginx. And then I just want to clarify, kind of last question. Unit is open source, or is there like a support tier for Unit? Like how are you guys handling? Is there kind of like a mixed use kind of thing?
So first of all, Unit is fully open source. So grab it, get the source code from GitHub, build it from source, contribute if you want to. Support is quite easy, so it's handled quite easily. We have Nginx open source and we have Nginx Plus. Nginx Plus is the commercial subscription for Nginx open source. It has Nginx open source as a core and adds features on top of it that will not be available in open source. And it will come with an absolutely awesome, outstanding, world-class support. And I'm saying this as a former Nginx customer, not as an employee. So I never had a better experience with support teams than with the support team of Nginx. They are absolutely deep into the topic. They are sitting next to the engineering team in Moscow. So they are absolutely aware of everything with Nginx. And Nginx Unit, if you have a subscription for Nginx Plus, Nginx Unit will fall into the support plan as well. So if you have any problems with Nginx Unit and you have a Nginx Plus subscription, you're absolutely happy to talk to the Nginx support team. If you do not have an Nginx Plus subscription and you have any problems with Nginx Unit, your support team will be the community, our GitHub repository, drop an issue. There's a mailing list as well. I will be around on Twitter. So let us know if you have any questions, problems, concerns, ideas. So happy to hear.
Awesome. I figured I would ask, since there might be somebody on the call or watching video that is interested in that. So it's good to hear that Unit you're following the path of the open source, original Nginx there. So that's great. Well, I think that's probably it for today's call. We went maybe a little bit over, but there was a lot to cover. Unit is some exciting stuff. Thank you so much, Timo, for joining us today. Look forward to you coming back in the future. We'll maybe once a year or something like that. We'll have you back and ask you more Nginx questions.
Sure. Yeah, as I said, I'm around. I'm not hiding for our users and the community. So let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, sure, it would be great to be able to come back, and let's see if the COVID stuff is calming down a little bit. Pretty sure I will be able to give you a visit. Give you a visit in Austin at some day.
Awesome.
Do some and grab some beers and do some handshaking stuff on a normal meetup. That would be awesome.
Yeah. We'll definitely plan a special event if you're in town. Outside of the conference stuff. But definitely the CFP is open. If you think of another talk, you can't give this one again, unfortunately. Well, I mean, I don't know, but maybe we'll tweak a few things. All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks everyone. Really appreciate you, April, and looking forward to more talks. So hit us up on all the places. Check out Gene's session later this month on, what was it, the 26th or something?
It's this Sunday. I forget which exact number is the day, but
go to Boston PHP and it should be on
the 25th.
On the event list there. Yep. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Timo, can you send us your can you tell me your Twitch channel name? I'm gonna put all the links in the meetup comments.
Yep. Let me send this. Can you let me do this? Yeah, can you formalize this as a question, the Q&A? That should be the easiest part, so I can drop the link as an answer. I think that will work. Can't find the chat right now.
Or just send me the link.
I don't think I'm allowed to ask questions. I can.
Yeah, that's the one downside of being a panelist is we can't ask ourselves questions.
Why not?
Yeah. I don't know. So just send me the link on LinkedIn and I'll shoot it over to you, Bobby. I can text it to you or
sure.
something. So
yeah, it's on the way.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.